During the late 1980s, Dirty Dancing exploded onto movie screens, captivating audiences around the world with its electric chemistry, unforgettable music, and thrilling dance scenes. It quickly became a cultural phenomenon, turning Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze into instant stars. But while sparks flew on screen behind the scenes, things were far more complicated than anyone realized, especially during the now iconic Hungry Eyes montage. What was Jennifer Grey hiding during the filming of one of the most beloved movies of all time? And how did this hidden truth impact her chemistry with Patrick Swayze, both on and off the set? Today we're diving into the untold story behind Dirty Dancing, a story of tension, vulnerability, and a secret that would only come to light years later, casting a surprising shadow over the film's glittering legacy. Before Baby and Johnny danced their way into cinematic history, there was Red Dawn, a Cold War action drama released in 1984. The film depicted American high school students fighting as guerrillas after a Soviet invasion. It was intense, both in its storyline and on set. Patrick Swayze, playing the tough Jed Eckert, approached his role with relentless focus and a near-military discipline. Jennifer Grey, who played Tony Mason, experienced firsthand just how intense Swayze could be. Behind the scenes, Red Dawn became a pressure cooker of clashing personalities. Swayze, a trained dancer and former gymnast, maintained a strict and serious attitude, staying in character between takes. His methodical approach worked for the gritty tone of the movie, but often created an uncomfortable atmosphere for his co-stars. Grey, in contrast, was spontaneous and instinct-driven, relying on emotion rather than discipline. She found Swayze's off-screen bravado overwhelming and at times intimidating. Their working styles were completely at odds. Grey later admitted that while she occasionally found Swayze charming, she often thought he was too macho and overly showy. His tendency to dominate scenes and crack jokes during serious moments made it difficult for her to stay connected to her character. By the end of Red Dawn, Grey felt relieved, certain she would never work with Swayze again. Fate, however, had other plans. When casting began for Dirty Dancing, finding the right actor to play Johnny Castle was a major challenge. The chemistry between Johnny and Baby needed to be believable, raw, and electric. Jennifer Grey was already cast as Baby, but the search for her co-star dragged on. The producers needed someone who could dance, exude masculinity, and show emotional depth. Patrick Swayze's name surfaced early, but when Grey heard it, her heart sank. Memories of their rocky experience on Red Dawn were still fresh. She voiced her concerns, unsure she could survive another emotionally taxing project with Swayze. But with options dwindling, the producers convinced her to at least test with him. Before the screen test, Swayze pulled Grey aside and apologized. Looking her in the eye, his voice cracking with emotion, he told her, "I love you. I'm so sorry. I know you don't want me to do the movie." For a moment, Grey saw a different side of him, vulnerable and sincere. Trusting that change, she agreed to the test. The result was pure magic. Their chemistry ignited instantly. It was electric and undeniable, and the producers knew they had found their perfect Baby and Johnny. However, old tensions didn't just vanish. As filming started in Lake Lure, North Carolina, the challenging conditions pushed everyone to their limits. The weather was brutally hot and humid, the budget was tight, and the schedule was grueling. Injuries like Swayze's persistent knee troubles made things even harder. Amid these pressures, the fragile truce between Grey and Swayze began to unravel. The emotional high from their successful screen test wore off quickly. Swayze's perfectionist nature clashed with Grey's more instinctual approach. With his years of formal ballet training, Swayze grew frustrated with Grey's struggles to keep pace with the demanding choreography. Grey, often nervous, would break into giggles during serious scenes, which irritated Swayze immensely. The tight schedule only worsened things. Some days, Grey and Swayze would be glaring at each other moments before the director called action. Yet once the cameras rolled, their real-life friction translated into an authentic, complicated chemistry that made Baby and Johnny's love story so believable. Behind the scenes, however, their differences remained glaring. During rehearsals, Swayze often tried to guide Gray's movements, correcting her form or steering her performance. Gray found this behavior belittling. She wanted to perform from the heart, not be micromanaged. The growing resentment sometimes led to explosive arguments, and crew members occasionally had to intervene. The tension wasn't just about dancing, it reflected a deeper lack of trust between them. One of the most iconic moments of the film, the climactic lift, almost didn't happen. Gray was terrified of attempting the lift and refused to rehearse it. For Swayze, a perfectionist who valued relentless practice, her refusal was infuriating. When it finally came time to shoot the lift, there had been no real practice. It was a single take, fueled purely by adrenaline and blind trust. Somehow, it worked, and the scene became one of the most legendary moments in movie history. Even before reaching that final lift, tensions were boiling over. The filming of the Hungry Eyes montage, where Johnny teaches Baby to dance, proved particularly difficult. By then, Gray's nervous giggles, once seen as charming, grated on Swayze. Each outburst meant another exhausting retake. One especially famous moment, when Johnny runs his hand down Baby's arm and she bursts into laughter, was completely unscripted. Gray simply couldn't stop giggling. Swayze's visible irritation was genuine, not acted. Yet director Emile Ardolino saw something real in the tension, a vulnerability and nervousness that fit Baby's character perfectly. He decided to leave it in the final cut. This blending of real emotions with fiction is part of why Dirty Dancing still feels so authentic today. The emotions weren't fully acted, they were real. Years later, Jennifer Grey revealed a darker side to the story, especially regarding the Hungry Eyes filming period. She shared that the atmosphere off-camera sometimes crossed professional lines. Jokes and pranks occasionally went too far, adding to her anxiety and emotional exhaustion. What began as creative tension at times spilled into behavior that Grey found degrading. She chose to keep these experiences private for decades, fearing it would tarnish the film's legacy or harm her career. When Grey finally spoke openly about it, fans were stunned. For years, audiences had adored the sizzling chemistry between Baby and Johnny, unaware of the painful realities behind it. The truth added a new layer of complexity to the beloved story, a reminder that the path to greatness is often messy and fraught with challenges. Despite all the off-screen struggles, Dirty Dancing remains a timeless classic. Its magic is undeniable, but behind the glittering dance scenes and swoon-worthy romance was a story of tension, struggle, and raw human emotion. Ironically, it was these very real dynamics that made the film unforgettable. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more behind-the-scenes secrets and untold Hollywood stories. See you next time. Thanks for watching.